Okay, well, mic check, mic check. Okay, that seems pretty clear. Let me look at this really quick. And then we'll get started here in a few minutes. I'm also going to drop the live recording of me actually taking the trades. So um, we'll see how that works out as well. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see what other people can see. Because, like, on my phone, it shows pretty well, like, what we're able to see. So I'm going to go over to this window and see if it looks any better because it's kind of. So basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a breakdown here at 55, and then that way I can go back myself and look at the quality. Okay, Tay, appreciate you. I'm gonna pan over, bro, um, to the other window, like the higher time frame, and just let me know what you think on this one. Do I just need to scroll in more when I'm looking at it, or how does it look? The I know the TS window is pretty good. So yeah, if you just let me know in the higher time frame with that, if it needs to scroll in or if it needs to be a better resolution over there. Okay, cool. So we're just kind of working with the resolution. I'm just trying to make sure the higher time frames are clean. Now, Tay, the other thing I was gonna do is bring over the middle screen so we can see that. Let's see if how that looks actually really quick. Yeah, so if you know what you're looking at, I get what you're saying. What about this middle screen here? Once it goes over to this one, this is more the intraday. And then I'm gonna also make this window um, where they don't have the top, they just see the chart. Like that doesn't show the tabs and all that other stuff. So that might actually help out too. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this to kind of ask him what he thinks here. What about like where I usually execute 15 and 5s? See what you think on those. Yeah, I think what's gonna be the best is I'm gonna I'm gonna go work on the settings here really quick, and then make sure that the tabs aren't up, and then that it's just showing the chart. If you could let me know in the chat if it looks a little blurry to you, because I'm gonna fix all that this weekend. I'm just trying to make sure this is where you guys can see it when we start live trading. Yeah, that's so that means I might have to just change a setting. Basically, to if it takes a second once I scroll, there's a certain setting for the scroll. But let me see here. Okay, cool. So we're gonna try to go ahead and go through a breakdown. There is about a 20-second delay, right? About 20-25 second delay. And so once we get the settings down, um, it may shorten a little bit. But as we go into the new year and we have the Discord up, you'll be able to get live, play by play of how we're looking at it. But from a top down analysis, what we really focus on is going to be, supply, demand, and where price is going to be. I don't personally look at volume because volume is just like another indicator that, it works and it doesn't work. It just depends on how you look at it. But understanding where buyers and sellers are going to be sitting is really the key. And so for me, if you look at NQ, right, from a daily perspective, right, a weekly perspective, we were coming into this demand area and we were respecting into this area, right? And so the only reason I thought like, well, this is, potentially, a buy position was because of how we were respecting in weekly, daily. But when you look at the intraday time frames, like where we're at now, and you think about what happened in the overnight, then you start to see that I don't trade the overnight, I just watch the overnight. Okay. And so in that overnight price, you have accumulation that happens here, right? Right, price is accumulating in the overnight, and then you have price marking up. So we'll go over the phases and like how we actually see the markets, but just for this breakdown, we'll just kind of go in. But price has four ways that it moves. Price likes to mark up, right? Higher highs, higher lows. Price likes to mark down, lower lows and lower highs. And price likes to distribute, right? Or accumulate, right? So we like to know where those areas are going to be. Now, we know when people buy a position where most likely most people are going to exit, okay? So when we see a position from overnight and we see that, most people from the daily open are, 400 handles in profit, then we already know what we're going to do, okay? So I'm just kind of looking back and seeing what this price action is. I think it's going to work better with one screen. Let's see if that works. Let me see if it loads a little better here on my end. Give me 1 second. I've got to work on that resolution. That's what it is. Okay, so we'll fix that part. So we already knew that like the only way for price to for people to continue to buy this position was if there was demands that were set for the price to go up on. And so at the New York, they pretty much manipulate in this area and pushes up to our key level. But why is this our key level, right? Now, if you look left, right, over here on this 4-hour time frame, right, we had a supply candle. So how we identify this level here for us is this is going to be a supply area. So I'm going to do this here. So this area right here, if you're buying anywhere above 25,200, 25,250, essentially to me, you're late. Okay. And so that's an area where people are going to want to exit those buy positions from the daily open. And so for us, the position that I ended up taking, the first one that I took, I'm going to go over and kind of show this middle screen here and show where I took this position, the shorts. So I'm going to go 15 and 5. So the very first one, if you go to the Telegram and look, I took a short position in these 25,300s. Price broke this low of 25,220s, and we were able to trail risk down and secure a small profit. And then I didn't attempt it again in this area. I just let price close higher, and then it rallied up. And then going into our favorite time of the day, which is going to be like that 11:15 a.m. time, we ended up seeing a supply candle, so a 15-minute close higher. So 10:30 to 10:45 price closed higher, but it wasn't like aggressively taking the 400s, and it wasn't pushing out of that higher time frame 4-hour supply. And so for me, I seen a position in here. I actually got a phone call right when I was getting ready to take the trade. But for me, I seen the position right here once we broke down 10:55 into 11, right? And I like to take my trades in the first 15 minutes of an hour or the last 15 minutes of an hour. And so when you look at this, this was the sign of weakness at the 400 level. And then I ended up taking a trade a lot lower than I wanted. It gave me 377s. I was wanting those 380s. And then we were looking to play down to the break of structure. So like what I was looking for was that New York low to be met when I took the short from here. So 25,350 down to 200, it's like a 150 handle move. I was looking for a price to deliver that New York low where there's buyers liquidity would be sitting. Okay. And so when they didn't deliver that level, right, all we did was we trailed our risk down to that New York open, and then we ended up using this last up candle in the downtrend's wick high to secure more of the bag to make sure we secure profits on the day as price moves in our favor. And so that's pretty much what we've seen on those shorts. I want to see how this quality looks just really quick. Give me 1 second. Let me know if you guys can see this clear, if it's a little distorted, because that way when I go to do the settings today, I'll kind of know what I need to do when I switch over from different areas. And I can see the chat here, so. And we will be, cause I don't know if some of you guys are on, but like we will go live in the new year, and the settings will be completely on point for that. And then I just want to show the TS window as well really quick. So I'm going to pull this back over here, and then we'll show the TS window because it might be the most clear one out of them all. So let's see. Because it shows up on the videos a lot more clear. So. Is the TS window a lot more clear? If you just let me know, Tay, if you're still watching really quick. Because I feel like this window is going to be easy for the executions. Because our main focus won't be breakdowns, it'll be live recordings. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So there's just a couple things that we got to work on, but I'll show it on this one as well. So this is what we ended up seeing too. So like, when we ended up taking that short, like I said, we were looking for that break of structure in that New York low. And now here's one thing I would say, right? If you're like, people will be like, well, I played the opposite of you today, right? I have a lot of people, like when I talk to people, they'll say, well, I played the opposite and stuff like that. Awesome. Because that means you're understanding order flow, right? And what I mean by that is like, if you see me in a short, right? You see me short basically these 25,400 level, and you see price on a line graph, right? Not breaking structure lower. So essentially, when you get this type of area, you're looking for a break of structure lower, because what happens is when price breaks that liquidity, sellers, what they end up doing is they end up covering their position. And when they cover their position, what happens? Buy orders fill. Because think about it, right? If you're in a short position, if you're in a short position and you're wanting to get out, what do you essentially have to do? Right? You have to set a buy limit, or you have to buy by market, right? So why do I attack the New York low in a short position situation like this? Well, because in this situation here, there's going to be a lot of people that have buy limits set in these areas for as soon as it breaks the level, right? But when you go to a 15-minute time frame here and you see that, we trust supply demand, me and my good friend and business partner Tay, who will be on a lot of these calls this coming year, we trust supply demand, and like when we seen this 15-minute demand candle set, right? If you don't get body closures below that level, then essentially what you're getting is short covering, right? Because the only way, like I said, for those shorts from that 25, let's say 380 level to really get a massive profit is when they break the structure and take the liquidity of the individual that was buying in this area, okay? And so that's what we were seeing there. So if you're long right now, that's awesome, right? Because I essentially think when I go back and pan to the higher time frames, and I'll just do it here, what we're seeing here is we want to see prices go above the previous day high. So like, for example, here, and I'll kind of slow down here to see if make sure the quality is doing what we want it to do. But what we're essentially wanting to do and why this is a key level is because why? You have to be able to read supply and demand on multiple time frames. So we know that this candle here is going to be a supply candle. Why do you want to know where a supply candle is? Again, because that's where, if you've been buying in the 4 phases, right? The market moves in 4 phases. If you've been buying inside of accumulation, so all this is price accumulating, okay? If you've been buying in here and then buying on the markup, right, where price is making higher highs and higher lows, then your next structural target would be to break a structure of the 25,500 level, right? And so if you're getting resistance inside that supply area, most noobs buy tops and sell bottoms, right? So they get stuck in positions where they're buying in the wrong locations on higher time frames because they're not identifying supply and demand. And so for us, like I said, this was a pretty easy setup. Even though we weren't along the buy position for the day, like we didn't take the buy at New York. Like I ended up taking shorts, got stopped out break even with a small win, and then so got stopped out break even, small win, and then price ended up carrying higher. Well, why didn't I buy? Let's say, right? Why didn't I buy this area here? Right? Like when you're looking at a 5 minute, 1 minute, 25,200s. Well, because I'd already pressed the short button, right? And I ended up shorting. So I shorted the first one in here, and then I shorted the second position. If you guys check the Telegram right here at New York Open, right? Now we'll go more in the new year into probabilities and, how we set up our trades and all that different stuff. But when I see a position, right, that presents a probability of a 20 handle risk with at least a 60 point gain, I already know it's a 1 to 3. And I like to have the first 15 minutes and last 15 minutes of an hour. So if you look at this price right here at 9 a.m., you get the fast up candle here on the 1 minute where you're able to get what, right? Count from risk to entry, right? You always want to think from your risk to where you're going to enter. So I like to risk 20 handle risk, and then going down, like I said, 60 would be a 1 to 3, right? So if you look at this right here, 1 to 3. And then if it was going to break the structural low, it'd be like over a 1 to 6, right? But I'm not going to go into trade management and how we manage this trade. But when we started to see price reaching down back into those 200s on the 5 minute, and we didn't see the structure break and the actual candle bodies close lower, that's how we're able to trail down our risk and understand what we're going to do to protect ourselves, right? Because now it comes down to a perspective of this. If you're looking for 1 to 3, 1 to 2 setups, and the price gives you more than a 1 to 2. So for example, like this, like price is, in our favor. This was our original trade, and price went a 1 to 2. So like right here, you want to start, like as it's falling, like right here, you want to start thinking at this point, right, where you're going to trail risk off to secure at least a 1 to 2, if that makes sense. Okay. And so a lot of people don't think in probabilities when they're taking trades, and that's something you'll learn from us as we go into 2026. And that's why I really want to focus on live executions with my actual accounts, right? Not like fugazi weird shit, just, telling you this is how it should work. This is like legit, okay? So I do this across all 5 accounts every day, right? Same system I've worked for a long time. So, and we do this on personal capital. How you do something is how you do everything, okay? And so, that's how we found those areas, and we were able to, secure that bag. Now, like I said, if you're in a position right now where you found a buy, now look at the timing, right? When did price capitulate? 11:15 a.m. essentially. So 11:05 to 11:10, and then 11:10 to 11:15. That 15-minute candle, right, is usually when I'm done trading, and that's when I'm gonna start doing like my breakdowns. But that 15-minute candle capitulates into where? A demand level. So you've got to know, right, where you want to like exit your trades as well, and then how to manage that trade while it's in your favor, if that makes sense. Let me know in the comments just really quick if the quality's still okay. I can see it on my TV. I'm going to have to shift my desk so that I can have my TV in front of me as well. But just want to see what you guys can see here. And then if you guys are in any trades right now, let me know, because that way we can kind of break down higher time frame and what we expect to see. And we'll keep this stream short today because I want to make sure and the quality is, you know, top notch for people, especially when we live trade. We might attempt to go ahead and live trade on this window that we're on right now tomorrow with Top Step going forward. So okay, cool. Cool. Did you take any trades today, bro? Is the audio okay too? Cuz I know I got to work on those settings as well. So cool. What we're gonna do tomorrow is a lot of people ask me the same questions, like how do you mark up your charts, highs and lows? How do you determine what's a key level, what whole levels to essentially to mark up, and then how we use high of day and low of day, right? And so for me, if you kind of look at it like this from this perspective, audio is good and no trades for me today. Oh, okay, got you. So yeah, it was kind of a tricky day. So now that we've broken that New York high, as something you guys will notice when we start live trading as well, is we always identify once New York opens. So once equities open, when it makes a low on a 15.5 and makes a high, we identify that area. So since New York, we've shown signs of strength, right? So as soon as they showed signs of strength above the first New York high and we're still holding that New York low, that's how you know when demand is set. And this will be easier to explain when we're actually live trading it. But now what we're looking at, because I marked this red line you guys see right here, is just going to be the end of day. You want to have a feel of what can print and going into the end of day. So this is going to be the high of day, right? Currently, right now. I also like to have the numbers right here, as you guys can see, 25,417, so I know exactly what that number is. And then always, like I said, knowing where that low of day is, which is, you know, super far off because the overnight buyers are in such a massive profit. And so we can look at like a daily. Let's see how it looks here. It's going to be kind of trash here, so let's do this. And then we can always do this here too. But let me see, I'll clear that a look. Okay, so as we start to push, like I said, what we're looking for, as you guys can see, look at these highs, right? Look at these highs going into tomorrow, because this is only Thursday. This is what I call a Christmas rally, right? Christmas rallies are starting to really respect this daily demand. Now, we were looking for a price to come under the 24,850s, below those 900s, but we've gotten a massive bullish day, right? And buyers are holding support on the way up. So, with that being said, it's like as you look at those higher time frames, you start to see where the magnets are, right? And as long as you can see that supply demand, uh, then you have a good chance, I think, of gauging better positions. And so, go back to what we can see here. I don't see why price would break down unless, right, it broke down where? Inside this supply candle. So that's what we'll do our best to focus on, is like how to identify these things on 15.5, because a lot of players, what they're doing is they're getting stuck on a 1 minute time frame, right? They're getting stuck on a 1 minute time frame, and then they take shit trades because their locations don't align with the higher time frame, bigger picture, right? What do you normally trade? I think it's Narturo. I don't want to say it wrong, but what do you normally trade? Do you trade ES, NQ? What do you like? What do you normally trade? And then just to kind of show you guys this too, it's like what I normally do is this is my execution window. So I have three windows. I have my left window is my higher time frame window. My middle window is like intraday, like so 1 hour, 15 and fives. And then over here, what I normally keep is like when I'm taking trades on, you know, executing actual trades is going to be on a 5 and a 1, but I'm always watching a 15.5. But at the same time, when I'm taking these trades to stay in alignment, right, with the higher time frame bias, what I'm doing, and I'll let this load and make sure it loads right. What I'm doing is I'm watching that higher time frame, and I'm telling myself, you know, if I'm in a 4 hour window, how's the daily printing, and where am I at opposed to supply demand? Okay. I trade NQ or NAS 100. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's, you know, I trade NQ and NAS pretty much every day. So this will also help you like understanding like how to hold swing trades, right? Because if you have an idea of like where buyers and sellers are getting out, then you have a pretty good idea of how you're going to hold that longer term trade. And so as you can see, if you look at the daily, right, these, like I have them marked over here only on the 4 hour. I don't want them to show up on the daily. But when you look at this daily, this is a massive target for me, even on CFD, right? So if you're swinging trades on NAS 100, right, and I'll actually pull that chart up here really quick, see if it's trash, right? It's essentially the same. Like I have buy positions that I'm just holding on swing trades, and that data should load here in a second. But I'm holding them to where? The 25,900 area, right? Because essentially these markets move the same, right? So this is like our target area, 25,900. Now this is NAS 100, so just so I know you said you trade that as well for those swing trades. But that target area being the area that, you know, essentially we would be targeting. So I'll kind of mark that area. Okay, it's marked. And like I said, I'll resize this so it's just the charts, which I think will make the quality go better too, and then remove the tabs. So I'm just writing those two things down really quick. I kind of scroll in over here. Okay, cool. And then what we're gonna do a lot of, like especially when I bring Tay on, is we're gonna start going over, because I know you guys ask him a lot of questions as well. What we're gonna start going over is our 4 hour and daily biases, right? Because me and him will talk on the phone very quickly in the mornings, and we just talk about where we're at, right, on a weekly, where we're at on. I'm gonna let it load. I guess it needs to load for a second. Where we're at on that weekly area for YM, ES, and Q. Where we're at on a daily, right? YM, ES, and Q. And then where we're at 4 hour directional play on YM, ES, and NQ. And so one thing I'll say that, you know, if you're an ES trader, right, is these supply demand rules apply no matter what, right? Because imagine if you're someone like I'm watching Top Step TV and they're attempting to buy ES, right, above 64,850, which was to me way too high. If the daily open is all the way at 60, let's just say 6,800, right? The concepts of trading are buy low, sell high. So essentially, what's happening to people, like I said, is like they should be buying down here, right, on ES and NQ, but instead they're waiting for confirmations. They're waiting for their eyes to tell them that it's okay, and then what they do is they buy it at shit levels. So as we teach you guys how to buy below opening price and how to trail risk, etc., then you're going to start to see when you plot these positions that, you know, you don't want to be buying these specific areas because that would actually be detrimental to your account. So like for example, if you're looking at this NQ trade, right? If I turn this to blue, right? Because I've plotted thousands of positions. If I turn this to blue, essentially I'm buying high instead of where I should be selling a position. So what's happening to people when you think about order flow is they're essentially they're trying to sell, they're trying to buy a position where an accumulation buyer, right, like the person that bought anywhere below here, right, is trying to exit that position. They need a noob to take on that order at the wrong spot, if that makes sense. And that's why we pay attention to supply and demand. That's why I say so much. Any trader that you see, one, that doesn't even have true results, but two, if they don't show you anything but like if they only show a 1 minute, they really don't even know how to read price. right? Because they're not looking at that bigger picture, okay? And so I'll work on the resolution when it comes to these higher time frames, but like I said, I look forward to trading live with people and taking the executions live. Like I said, YouTube, there is about a 15-second delay, but we will have the Discord up for 2026 for anybody that wants to, you know, pass their fundeds, get payouts, and to continue to build their accounts. Can you increase the output volume for your streaming software? Yeah, I definitely can. You're talking about like for like my voice, right? RAM. Just want to make sure that's what you're talking about. Because I think when I look one way, that's what I got to focus on. Is it making sure that it's picking up everything here. Got you. Hold on. Let's see if this one. Let's see if this works a little better. Yo. Let's see if it's. Yo. Is that any better here now? Just let me know. We'll go back to. So yeah, it's about a 15-20 second delay. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys hopping on, like checking this out. Like I said, we'll work on the stuff this weekend just to make it better, and then we'll uh, most likely we'll live trade on this link here tomorrow, where you guys can see this window that's up currently right now, and we'll take some live executions because that's my favorite thing to do, and then work on the settings over the weekend. We'll come back Monday morning and see how everything looks for the breakdown. So maybe we'll do a breakdown tomorrow after I work on the settings tonight. We'll do live execution tomorrow as well. Like I said, there'll be like a 15-second delay. And then, like I said, it'll be Christmas time. So when we go into the new year, like I said, if you're not a part of the Telegram, go ahead and join the Telegram, because then we'll launch the Discord where you'll have, you know, play-by-play. Like you'll be able to, you know, take a trade as soon as we take trades. Okay, so yeah, appreciate you guys hopping on and just kind of helping me out here, and hope you have a good rest of your day.